A very good evening, friends. I welcome you all to the daily newspaper analysis brought to you by the Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 2nd May 2024. Here are the list of articles which we are going to see in our discussion. So, get started. Are you ready to ace the UPSC Prelims 2024? I welcome you all to the Shankar IAS Academy's Telegram live series, your ultimate guide to the UPSC preparation. Friends, join us for our Telegram live session on Science and Technology, which will be dealt by our resource faculty, Mr. N. Sucharithan sir. He will be sharing his invaluable insights regarding the science and technology. Don't miss this opportunity. Tune into Shankar IAS Academy's Telegram channel on 3rd May, that's tomorrow at 7 p.m. The link to our Telegram channel will be provided in the description and will be pinned in the first comment. So don't miss this. Look at this picture. It is Mount Ruang, a volcano which has erupted recently. This eruption propelling an ash cloud upwards of a mile into the sky. See, it's a stratovolcano located in the Indonesia's North Sulawesi provinces. It is a 725-meter volcano. The summit of Ruang stands 10,932 feet above the sea level with a caldera that is about 2 miles wide. See, this is the crux of the article. In our discussion, we are going to see about the list of recently erupted volcanoes, which is very important from the preliminary perspective. Firstly, the Merapi volcano in West Sumatra, Indonesia, which erupted recently, ejecting the ash up to 3,000 meters into the air and causing casualties. See, Mount Merapi, which means a mountain of fire, is the most active volcano on the Sumatra island, and its most deadly eruption was in April 1979 when over 60 people were killed. See, we know that Indonesia sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire and has 127 active volcanoes. See, despite being one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world, Mount Merapi is a famous tourist destination. Merapi, along with other volcanoes like Mount Semeru and Mount Bromo, continues to be a popular adventure destination in Indonesia. Moving on our discussion, now we are going to see about Mount Etna, the Europe's most active volcano and one of the largest in the world, which has been erupting frequently since February 2023, sending plumes of ash and fountains of lava into the sky. Now let us see some key facts about Mount Etna. See, Mount Etna is a stratovolcano, which means it's composed of layers of lava, ash and rocks that have been accumulated over thousands of years of eruptions. See, it's located in the east coast of Sicily, an island in the Mediterranean Sea that belongs to Italy. The volcano stands about 3,300 meters above the mean sea level and covers an area of about 1,200 square kilometers. See, Etna has 4 summit craters and hundreds of lateral vents that can produce different types of eruptions like explosive, effusive or mixed. See, it has been erupting almost continuously since 1500 BC, making it one of the most active volcanoes of the world. Moving on, see, Iceland is one of the most volcanically active regions of the planet. It witnesses an eruption every 4 to 5 years. However, since 2021, the frequency has spiked to almost 1 eruption per year. Okay, now let us see the recent eruptions in Iceland. See, the Fagradalsfjall volcano in the southwest Iceland erupted in 2021 and subsequently erupted in December 2023. This volcano, which was dormant for over 6,000 years, became active in 2021. See, intense seismic activities preceding the eruptions allowed the authorities to anticipate the event and take necessary actions like evacuations, etc., which minimize the potential risk to the local communities. See, this is all regarding the discussion. See, we know that in this discussion, we saw about the various recently erupted volcanoes from the preliminary perspective. Revise it often as it will be directly asked in the preliminary questions. Okay, with this basics, let us move on to the next news article discussion. This news article talks about balanced fertilization. See, despite the efforts by the government like promoting neem-coated urea, taking steps to prevent the illegal diversion, urea consumption has continued to rise, reaching a record of 35.8 million tons in the fiscal year March 2024 compared to 30.6 metric million tons in 2013-14. See, this is the crux of the article. In this backdrop, let us learn what is balanced fertilization and the challenges in implementing it. Firstly, know that the fertilizers are the basically food for the crops which containing nutrients necessary for the plant growth and grain yields. Balanced fertilization means supplying primary nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, secondary nutrients like sulfur, calcium, magnesium and micronutrients like iron, zinc, copper, manganese in the right proportion based on the types of soil and the own requirement of the crop at different stages of growth. See, The nutrient-based subsidy system instituted by the Government of India in April 2010 was expected to promote balanced fertilization. Under it, the government fixed a per kg subsidy for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and sulfur. This means that the subsidy on any fertilizer was linked to the nutrient content which is being present in it. Here, the basic idea is to shift the farmers from using high concentration fertilizers like urea and MOP to the complex fertilizer system with balanced nutrients and lower concentration. See, this is the fair idea of introducing NBS. However, a major challenge is that in the system, urea was kept outside of it. This enables the government to retain the direct control over its minimum retail price and the subsidy. See, this discrepancy in the pricing has led farmers to overuse the urea, neglecting the other essential nutrients, and ultimately it caused soil health degradation. For example, let me give you data. The current MRP of the DAP is 1350 per 50 kg bag. See, this is very lower compared to NPK's complex fertilizer system that cost 1470 per the 50 kg bag. So, in a nutshell, the first major challenge in implementing the balanced fertilizer is keeping urea outside the NBS framework. And the second challenge is not establishing a proper price hierarchy among the non-urea fertilizers. Okay, what is the solution for rectifying this issue? See, as you know that India is heavily import dependent of fertilizer, be it of finished products or intermediaries or raw materials. But the global prices have cooled down following the Russia-Ukraine war. So, using this opportunity, the next government can rationalize the MRP of fertilizers and promote balanced plant nutrition. This would involve pricing the DAP at the highest level, MOP at the lowest, and complex fertilizer in between the price regime. Apart from this, another solution which can be done is keeping urea under the NBS system. By doing so, the government could address the issue of overuse of urea by adjusting the subsidy rate based on the nutrient content. This approach would help mitigate the impact of any significant price increases in urea by redistributing the subsidies to other nutrients. See, this will encourage the balanced fertilization by providing incentives for the farmers to use fertilizers with a more optimal nutrient mix and reduces the reliance on urea while promoting the use of other nutrients. See, this is regarding the discussion. In this discussion, firstly we saw about the problems in implementing the balanced fertilization of Indian agriculture. In the second part, we saw about the steps to be taken to overcome those problems. With this basics, let us move on to the next news article of the day. This column from the Hindu newspaper talks about a recent study conducted by Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, Pune. The report highlighted two important things. Firstly, the Indian Ocean's temperature has risen by 1.2 degrees Celsius from 1950 to 2020, and it is projected to increase further by 1.7 degrees Celsius to 3.8 degrees Celsius from 2020 to 2100. Secondly, the report pointed that there is an increase in the marine heat waves from average of 20 days per year to 220 to 250 days per year. See, both the predictions have had a huge impact on the different types of weather phenomena in India. Okay, let us understand them using our mains answer writing discussion. The topic can be asked in GS paper 1 under the syllabus which is mentioned here. Okay, now let me read out the question for you. Elaborate upon the impact of rising sea level on the coastal regions of India. Also mention the measures taken by the government of India to mitigate the repercussions of this sea level rise. Okay, the question is a very straightforward question with only one keyword: elaborate. Okay, and the keyword is elaborate. You have to give in more detail and provide more information on the particular matter. Here, you can split the answer into two parts. In the first part, you can write about the impacts of the rising sea level, especially on the coastal regions of India. Second part, you can write about the governmental initiatives to mitigate the risk. See, this is how we are going to approach this particular question. Okay, let's start answering. Moving on to the introduction part, here you can write like this. As per the National Center for the Coastal Research, NCCR, the average sea level rise increased from 1.3 mm per year between the 1901 to 71 to 3.7 mm per year between 2006 to 18. As per inquiries, on an average, at present, the sea level along the Indian coast is estimated to be rising about 1.7 mm per year. This indicates a significant increase in the rate of sea level along the Indian coast. See, this increase in the sea level has several implications. Firstly, rising sea level can contribute to the coastal erosion which threatens the coastal communities, infrastructure, and ecosystem. It can lead to the loss of land, displacement of population, and damage to the property. For example, according to the analysis by RMSI, some critical properties and road networks in Mumbai, Kochi, Mangalore, Chennai, Vizag, and Trivandrum will be drowned by 2050 because of the rise in sea level. To be very specific, Haji Ali Dargah, JNPT, Western Express Highway, Bandra Worli Sea Link, and Queen's Necklace on a marine drive are the key infrastructures in Mumbai. See, these are all at the risk of submergence. Imagine losing this critical infrastructure due to sea level rise. Secondly, higher sea level can exacerbate the impacts of the storm surges and extreme weather events, leading to more frequent and several coastal flooding. See, this could pose a risk to the coastal communities, agriculture, and critical infrastructure. Example, high tide combined with storm surge is one of the main reasons for the urban flooding in Chennai due to cyclone Mikjam. This situation will be more worse if high tide combined with the sea level rise. Thirdly, rising sea level can result in the intrusion of salt water into the freshwater sources like aquifers and estuaries. This will compromise the water quality which is available for agriculture and drinking purposes. Example, saline intrusion is the major threat for the survival of coal fields that spread over 13,000 hectares in Thrissur and Malappuram districts in Kerala. See, these fields which lie 0.5 to 2.5 meter below the sea level, but it is providing 40% of the Kerala's rice requirement. So, saltwater intrusion can devastate these precious fields. Fourthly, loss of biodiversity. See, coastal ecosystems including mangrove, salt marshes, and coral reefs are vulnerable to the sea level rise. These habitats provide essential services like protection of shoreline, carbon sequestration, and habitat for the marine biodiversity. Their loss or degradation can have far-reaching ecological consequences. Finally, it will have an impact on the economy and livelihood. As you all know, coastal regions are often economically significant, supporting the industries like tourism, fisheries, and agriculture. See, rising sea levels and associated impacts can disrupt these sectors, leading to economic losses and affecting their livelihoods. See, you can write all these points in the first part of the answer. In the second part, you ought to write about the governmental initiative to combat this. Firstly, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has delineated the hazard line for the entire coastal regions of the country. This hazard line is indicative of the shoreline changes, including sea level rises due to climate change. See, this line is used by the agencies in the coastal state as a tool for the management of disaster, including planning, creating adaptive or mitigation measures. Secondly, the Environment Ministry has notified the Coastal Regulation Zone CRZ notification 2019 with a view to conserve and protect the coastal structures, marine area, and to ensure the livelihood security to the fishers and other local community. See, these coastal regulations, however, permit setting up of the erosion control measures in the coast. This notification also provides for no development zone or NDZ along the various categories of coastal areas to protect the India's coastlines from encroachment and erosion. Thirdly, the ministry has framed a national strategy for the coastal protection along the guidelines for all coastal states and UTs. Fourthly, the flood management scheme of the Jal Shakti Ministry includes anti-sea erosion schemes which are planned and executed by the state governments with their own resource as per the priority of the states. See, the union government renders assistance to the states which is technical, advisory, catalytic and promotional in nature. Finally, the union government is implementing the several schemes for increasing the forest and tree cover in the India, including mangroves in the coastal areas, to prevent erosion. The scheme, Conservation and Management of Mangroves and Coral Reefs, is being implemented on a 60-40 fund sharing between center and states. See, you can write all these points in the second part of your answer. Finally, in the conclusion part, you can write like this. To address this impact, we need to effectively implement the Climate Disaster Resilient Initiative and the updated NDC of the Paris Agreement, as rising sea level is a global phenomenon. Thus, the governments, business, communities must work together towards developing sustainable coastal development strategies and towards increasing the resilience to the climate change. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the consequences of the sea level rise, and in the second part, we saw about the steps taken to prevent the same. With this learned points, let us move on to the next news article discussion. Look at this article Recently, GST collections hit a new record of 2.1 lakh crores, indicating the high tax collections with 12.4% growth over the previous highest tally due to a strong momentum in our economy. See, with this backdrop, let's understand about the basics of GST from the preliminary perspective. Firstly, what is GST? Goods and Service Tax or GST is a destination based taxation system which was introduced by the 101 Constitution Amendment Act. See, it's calculated only in the value addition at any stages of the production of goods or services. See, the final consumer will pay only a part of the tax or not the entire supply chain, which was the case earlier. So, the cascading of taxes has been prevented. Know that it's an indirect tax for the whole country on the lines of one nation, one taxation to make India a unified market. Presently, GST is levied at different taxes, that is 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. See, now let us see about GST Council. The Goods and Services Tax Council is a constitutional body in India. Article 279A, Class 1 of the amended Constitution, the GST Council has to be constituted by the President within 60 days of the commencement of the Article 279A. Know that the GST Council shall consist of the following members: the Union Finance Minister as a chairperson and other members including the Union Minister of State in charge of Revenue or Finance, the Minister in charge of the Finance or Taxation, or any other minister nominated by each state government. According to Article 279A, Clause 3, the members of the GST Council shall choose one member amongst themselves to be the Vice Chairperson of the Council for such period as they may decide. With respect to the working of the Council, know that the GST Council takes every decision at its meeting by a majority of not less than 3/4 of the weight votes of the members present and voting. For this, the least quorum required for conducting a meeting is 50% of the total number of members of the council. See, the vote of the central government is assigned a weightage of 1/3 of the total vote cast in a particular meeting. The votes of all the state governments combined is assigned a weightage of 2/3 of the total votes cast in a particular meeting. Okay, moving forward, let us see the basics about GST compensation cess. See, GST compensation cess was introduced as a relief for the states for the loss of revenue arising out of the implementation of GST. See, states, in lieu of the giving up of power to collect taxes on goods and services because of the local levies which was subsumed under GST, were guaranteed a 14% tax revenue growth in the first 4 years after the implementation of GST by the central government. See, the state's revenue as of financial year 16 is considered as a base year for the calculation of this 14% growth. Here, it is important to know that any shortfall against it should be supposed to be compensated by the center using the funds specifically collected as a compensation cess. See, the compensation cess is levied on 5 products considered to be sin or luxury good like SUV, pan masala, cigarette, etc. The collected compensation cess flows into the Consolidated Fund of India and then which is being transferred to the public account of India where a GST compensation cess account has been created. See, states are compensated bi-monthly from the accumulated funds in this account. Also note that the Government of India recently extended the compensation cess until 31st March 2026, which was originally has to be ended June 30, 2022, 5 years after the single tax rolled out on July 1, 2017. Now, with this broad basics, now let us have a look on the trends of GST. See, the GST collections hit a record high in April 2024 at 2.10 lakh crore rupees. This represents a significant 12.4% year-on-year growth driven by a strong increase in domestic transactions and imports. After accounting for refunds, the net GST revenue for the April 24 stands at 1.92 lakh crores, reflecting an impressive 15% growth compared to the same period last year. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In the discussion, firstly, we saw about the basics of GST and GST Council and GST compensation cess. In the second part, we saw about the various trends in the GST collections. With this broad basics, now let us move on to the next news article of the day. Look at this article. Methane emissions from the burning fossil fuels decreased from the 90s to 2000 and have stayed at the same level since. But shockingly, in the recent times, microbes have been making more methane. One possible reason is more cows being raised in Latin America and more methane coming from the waste in South and Southeast Asia. See, methane comes from two main sources, biogenic and thermogenic. Biogenic methane is made up of tiny organisms called archaea. See, specifically, methanogens are situated in the places like animal guts, wetlands and landfills. See, methanogens are crucial for the carbon cycle of the earth. But recently, human activities like farming, fossil fuels have made the methane emissions in a higher level. Both biogenic and thermogenic methane production create different types of methane molecules called isotopes. See, carbon-13 is important in tracking the methane sources. If there are few carbon-13 atoms in a group of methane molecules, it's likely from the living things. If there are more, it's possibly from things like fossil fuels. Scientists from different countries collected data from the 12 monitoring sites around the world since 1990s. They used a special program on a supercomputer to analyze the data and understand how methane levels have changed from 1980s to 2020. See, this is the crux of the news article which is being given here. In this context, we are going to see about methane and the various initiatives to limit the emission of methane. Firstly, about the basics of methane. See, methane is the second most abundant anthropogenic greenhouse gas which is being released after the CO2. But note that it warms the planet more. Over a century, methane has a global warming potential which is 28 times greater than the carbon dioxide, even higher over the short periods like 2 decades. Okay, with this basics, now let us see the steps which can limit the emissions of methane. Firstly, let us see about Methane Alert Response System or MARS. See, the MARS was launched at the COP27 to the UNFCCC in Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt. See, the Data to Action platform was set up as a part of the UNEP's International Methane Emission Observatory or IMEO. Know that it's a strategy to get a policy relevant data into the right hands for the mitigation of emissions. The system will be first publicly available global system to connect the methane detection to the notification processes in a transparent manner. Now let us see the objectives of MARS. See, MARS will integrate data from a large number of existing and future satellites that have the ability to detect the methane emissions events anywhere in the world and send out the notification to the relevant stakeholders to act on it. See, MARS will track the large point emission sources, mainly in the fossil fuel industry, but with time would be able to detect the emissions from the other sources like coal, wastes, livestock, rice fields, etc. Now, let us see the second initiative to combat the methane emissions, that is Global Methane Pledge. See, the pledge was first announced in September by the United States and European Union. It's not a structured arrangement. Then, what is the aim of Global Methane Pledge? See, its aim is to reduce the global methane emissions across the globe. To cut down the methane emission by up to 30% from 2020 levels by the year 2030. See, if it's implemented globally, this would minimize the global warming by 0.2 degrees Celsius by 2040s compared to the projected temperature rises. See, it has 111 country participants who are together responsible for the 45% of the globally human-caused methane emissions. As of now, India, the third large source of the methane emissions, is not a signatory to the Global Methane Pledge. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the various basics about methane, and in the second part, we saw about the 2 initiatives to cut the emissions of methane. With these learned points, let us move on to the next news article of the day. Look at this news article. The Bombay High Court made a decision about the public sector banks and lookout circulars. They said that PSBs or public sector banks cannot ask for LOCs against the people. It said that the PSBs cannot ask for LOCs against the people who haven't paid back the loans. The court cancelled the rules from the central government that led the PSB to request the LOC. See, this is the crux of the article. In this context, let us understand about LOC or lookout circulars. LOCs are issued by the authorities to prevent a person from leaving the country. They are often used in the cases where the person is wanted by the law enforcement agencies or is involved in a legal proceedings. See, the LOCs were issued by the Bureau of Immigration under the Ministry of Home Affairs. These LOCs permitted the authorities at any departure point to stop a debtor to the public sector banks from leaving India. According to the existing guidelines, LOCs are initiated by a large number of agencies, which includes CBI, Enforcement Directorate, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, Income Tax, State Police and Intelligence Agencies, etc. Know that among the state police agencies, a lookout circular could be issued by an officer not below the rank of District Magistrate or Superintendent of Police. In 2018, after liquor baron Vijay Mallya fled to UK, the Ministry of Home Affairs brought changes to the guidelines authorizing the chairman, managing director and chief executive of all the public sector banks to generate the LOCs. See, the organizations have to provide the details like first information report number. Moreover, the court case number is to be mandatorily provided other than the name, passport number and other details. They were authorized by the office memoranda issued by the ministry starting from October 27, 2010. See, this memorandum gives the authorities the power to generate the LOCs in exceptional cases without any complete parameters or case detail against the suspects, terrorist, anti-national elements in the larger public interest. Now we are going to see a related topic with regard to the external sector in the form of nostro and vastro account. See, a nostro account is an account held by a bank in another bank. It allows the customer to deposit the money in the bank's account in another bank. It's often used if a bank has no branches in a foreign country. See, nostro in a Latin word that means ours. A vastro account is an account that a correspondent bank holds on behalf of the other bank. Vastro in Latin word means yours. See, the vastro account enables the domestic bank to provide international banking services to the clients with global banking needs. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about two important terms like lookout circular, and in the second part we saw about the vastro and nostro accounts which are used in the external sector. This is all regarding the discussion. With this, let us move on to the next part of our analysis, that is to discuss the preliminary practice questions. Today, I am having 4 questions. I'll solve 3 of them and one will be the quiz question for you to solve. Let's see the first question. Consider the following statements. The statement 1 states that the Barren Island volcano is India's only active volcano. See the second one. It's the only active volcano along a chain of volcanoes from Sumatra to Myanmar. See, both the statements are correct because Barren Island is the India's only active volcano, and moreover, it is the only active volcano among the chain of volcanoes. So, both the statements are correct. So, the correct option is option C. Let us see the second question of the day. Consider the following statements with reference to nutrient-based subsidies or NBS. See the first statement. It provides a fixed amount of subsidy based on the nutrient content which is being present in them on the each grade of subsidized phosphatic, potassium and potassic fertilizers except urea. See, this statement is correct as we saw in the discussion that NBS provides a fixed amount of subsidy based on the nutrient content which is being present on them. See the second statement. It's administered by the Department of Fertilizers under the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. See, this statement is also correct. So the correct option is option C. Let us see the third question of the day. Which of the following statements are correct about the deposits of methane hydrate? Okay, let's see the first statement. Global warming might trigger the release of methane gas from the deposits. See, this statement is correct because methane hydrate is a crystalline solid that consists of methane molecule surrounded by cage of interlocking water molecules. Methane hydrate is a ice that occurs naturally in the subsurface deposits where temperature and pressures are favorable for the formation. As global warming leads to a rise in temperature, so it might trigger the release of methane gas from the deposits. So the statement 1 is correct. See the second one. Large deposits of methane hydrate are found in the Arctic tundra and under the sea floor. See, this is also correct because methane hydrates tend to form along the lower margins of the continental slopes where the seabed drops from the relatively shallow shelf, usually about 150 meters below the sea surface. The susceptibility of the gas hydrates to the warming climate depend on the duration of the warming event, their depth beneath the sea floor, and the amount of warming required to heat the sediments to the point of dissociating the hydrates. So statement 2 is perfectly correct. See the third statement. Methane in the atmosphere oxidizes to carbon dioxide after a decade or 2. Statement 3 is also correct because the problem with the methane is that it does not vanish without a trace even though it remains in the atmosphere relatively briefly 10 years on the average. In the presence of free oxygen, a methane's single atom of carbon disengages from its 4 hydrogen atom to become a carbon dioxide. So this is also correct. So the correct option is option D. The quiz question based on today's discussion is displayed here. Interested aspirants can answer it in the comment section. The mains question based on today's discussion is also listed here. Interested aspirants can write and get back to us. If you like today's discussion, like, comment and share it with your friends. For more updates regarding UPSC preparation, subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy. Thank you very much.